Hello, everyone. Do you recognize his voice?
Taking you back in time.
The best of the 80s. New wave, big hair, music videos, the birth of hip-hop. This is it! Let's take a trip back in time.
80s Radio with Huey Lewis on Apple Music Hits.
Hey, everybody. Huey Lewis here again, right here on Huey's 80s Radio on Apple Music Hits. And we're real excited. We got a great show for you at this time, especially because we have a guest, and not just any guest. In fact, we have two guests from one of my favorite bands of all time. From Toto, we have David Paich and Steve Lukather. Gents, welcome to the show.
Hello, Hugh. What's going on, brother?
Hey, Huey, my brother.
Good to see you guys. All right, so, this is about the 80s, of course, but
I don't remember a thing.
Yeah, well, but you guys have a lot of new stuff coming out, a lot of amazingly amounts of new projects, and we're going to plug all the new stuff. But first, we're going to go back to the beginning. Most people know Toto were high school pals, came out of grade school together. We know, David's dad, Marty, was a great arranger, did that wonderful record with Sammy Davis Jr., Wham of Sam, maybe the best record he ever did.
Wham of Sam.
Good memory.
But how did it start for you guys? Coming from the very beginning, give me a thumbnail. When did you first meet? When did you form the band? Give it to me.
I was 14 years old, and my dad just became a musical director for the Glenn Campbell Show. And so I got to sit down in the pit and play with all these professionals like Paul Humphreys, Louis Shelton, Chuck Berghofer. Well, my dad wanted to replace the percussionist because he didn't like the way he played tambourine. It wasn't gospel-y enough. So he auditioned tambourine players, and Joe Porcaro came in the room and started playing a gospel tambourine like Clara Ward. You probably won't know who that is, but
sure,
he was a gospel tambourine player. And my dad hired him, and then Joe heard me jamming with the Glenn Campbell rhythm section, and he said that his son's keyboard player in his band, they just won the Battle of the Bands, and they were looking for a keyboard player. So Joe hooked me up, and Jeff came down to where Glenn Campbell was, and we started playing together. I joined Jeff's band, and we started playing high school gigs, which eventually our band, Work Still Life, became Steve Lukather's band and Steve Porcaro's band. That's how I met Luke.
Right.
Pierce was in our band at school.
Yeah.
It was really Steve's band. It wasn't my band. It was Steve Porcaro's band.
Yeah.
But that's how I met Jeff and Mike and the family, and learned about studio musicians and heard how great Jeff and Dave played, and always dreamed of playing with them.
This is kind of early 70s kind of thing.
I graduated 72, where me and Jeff went out on the road with Sonny and Cher and met David Hungate. Okay.
Right.
And then Jeff was working with Les Dudek that Boz Scaggs was producing, and Boz wanted to do another album and co-write it with somebody. So Jeff cost him my name, and we sat down and wrote the Silk Degrees album.
That's right. That's right.
And then Steve Lukather came on board and joined Boz.
I did that tour. Yeah, I did that tour right out of school. And then I was on the road with Jeff, and we played on some demos for you in that early January before I went on the road that summer with Boz, I guess. And then I really wanted to be in the band with Jeff and Dave. And yeah, I worked real hard for it then.
Well, I remember my band in the late 70s, we were forming our band, and we would look at the back of these album covers. And the name Paich and Lukather and Porcaro were just prevalent on all of our favorite records. So we kind of worshiped you guys from afar.
Come on.
We were NorCal, and you guys were the real pros down there. And I remember that. And what's interesting is you started your band, if I'm not mistaken, first album, Hold the Line, right? Was a big smash, your very first record.
Yeah.
I mean, did that change things?
Yeah.
It did. For us, we never had like our own hit single to have a hit single on CBS, and all of a sudden we're in the top 5, but it's us. We were like little kids. It was like an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, it's like
I felt like I wasn't in the business.
Yeah, we played on hit records. We played on other people's hit records. I came in later. David had already played on huge records. And I started playing on hit records, but when it's your record, it's a lot different. When it's like, hey, that's my band.
Huey Lewis here, Huey's 80s Radio, right here on Apple Music Hits. We got Steve Lukather and David Paich from Toto in the studio, and we're talking to them about a lot of things, but we've made them pick some of their favorite songs from the 80s, and right now we're going to hear one of them. This is, I think this is Luke's pick. This is the great Stevie Ray Vaughan and Pride and Joy. Tell us a little something about it, Luke.
You know, man, what can I say? You know, Stevie Ray Vaughan. That's all you have to say. Play the record.
Here he is, Pride and Joy. All right, that was the great Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course, and Pride and Joy.
You know I love it. We miss you, Stevie. God bless you, man.
Yeah, and I got Steve Lukather and Dave Page right here in the studio. Huey Lewis here on Huey's 80s Radio, Apple Music Hits. And I want to know about producers, because you guys know all about producers. You played on 1 million records, and there's no one way to produce a record, right? The 80s was about hits. That's what it was about. In the 80s, it was CHR radio. That was the whole deal. There was only one avenue to success, and that was a hit single. And producers made hit singles. And there's no one way to produce, right? Tell us a little bit about some of the guys you worked with.
You gotta have a great song before you can produce it. Then that makes it easier. It's harder. You need more production on a bad song.
Yeah.
Of course, we never learned that lesson. But no, we love all my favorite records have massive production. You know what I mean? And Sgt. Pepper's, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, The Wall, you know, Dark Side of the Moon. So we all grew up listening to that stuff, but then, you know, we also loved our R&B and our hit singles too. You know, it's like, how do we mix this all up and still be a rock band? You know, and that's kind of how we looked at it. But I listen to all kind of music, man. Same stuff you'd be listening to, I'm sure.
Yeah, and also it helps when you have a great lead singer, a great artist that's doing it. And you were one of the great singers of all time in the 80s, you know what I mean? So we're like, well, he's taken, we can't have him in our band. Who else can we get, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, you're sweet. The reason I got into the production thing is because one of the next song I'm going to pick, a favorite of yours, and I think this is Luke's again, is Owner of a Lonely Heart. Talk about production. Trevor Horn, right?
Oh,
Trevor.
yeah.
That was a producer's record right there.
That's what I mean. So there are all kinds of records, right? There's ones that are producers' records,
right.
And then some where a guy just sings his ass off and cannot be denied.
Well, there's also a lot of really famous producers that order lunch, you know?
What do you mean by that, Luke?
Right, look at me when
You know,
talking about me.
no. You're never there for lunch. You come in much later.
All right, here it is. Owner of a Lonely Heart for you. And that was Owner of a Lonely Heart, of course. And I'm here in the studio with Steve Lukather and Dave Page. Okay, guys, let's talk about technology, right? Because 70s, we didn't have any technology. 80s was about technology, I'm thinking a little bit. Tell me about drum machines. When's the first time you heard of a drum machine?
No, I can do that, man. I was in the room with Roger, with Jeff Porcaro, Steve Porcaro, Roger Lynn, when he still had alligator cables laid out on the table and soldering irons. He goes, watch this. And he played the first Lynn drum, bap, bap, hi-hat, snare, kick.
Wow.
Jeff stood up and he goes, we have to destroy this now. It's going to ruin everything. Put this on my back and push me in the pool. And Steve was cracking up going, yeah, this is the perfect for me. And I was kind of like just with my mouth open.
Well, I remember we heard that somehow somebody had got Jeff Porcaro's drums in a box. I said, wow. No, they got his drums are in the box, and it's a drum machine. It's a click track, but it plays Jeff Porcaro's drums. I said, what do you mean? That's what? So, and when was that? Was that 80?
81 for me.
Yeah.
81, yeah. And that changed the game, didn't it? I mean, records.
Yeah.
When you think back.
Yeah. It was, it was originally Leon Russell's idea, who Roger Lynn was working for, to come up with a programmable rhythm ace. Remember rhythm ace? We used to cut to those.
Sure.
And then Steve Porcaro came up with the idea, well, it'd be great if you could have real sounds. And Roger says, let me think about it. And he did it like a prom burner. And when I came over to Roger's house, he had his dog demonstrated. He picked up the pause and said, watch this. This is called autocorrect. And he just put a click back and took the pause and played a stupid little beat. And it corrected it, made it sound like Keltner,
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was pretty life-changing, you know what I mean, to say, especially for songwriters, because you could make demos finally, you know what I mean?
Now, did Jeff ever play to a click?
Sure.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
But not in the beginning.
Sometimes he didn't want us to listen to it, though. He says, let me listen to the click. You play like you play.
Yeah.
He believed in group time. Group time. Everybody plays at a different place. And when it all
Right.
commingles into one thing, it's a group time, and that's what makes a
Excellent.
group have a
Yeah.
sound. You know what I
Also,
mean?
also when you were editing back in those days, it helped to edit takes. I remember my father, I was working on a record called Got to Be Real with Cheryl Lynn, and my father was co-producing, so he insisted on doing it TV style, which is like you can edit takes because you have a click track, you have a source of a constant in there. So when we did the first Toto album, a lot of that, not all of it, but some of it was done with click track, so we could edit takes together. It's not like it is now, you know what I mean? We can
Wow.
just
Yeah. Right.
do
Right.
anything, you know.
That's cool. That's cool. Let's play Rosanna. Why not? Rosanna, maybe one of the best records ever made. It's a record you just never get tired of listening to. This is Toto and Rosanna. All right, that's Rosanna by the great Toto, and they're here in the studio with us. I'm Huey Lewis. This is Huey's 80s Radio right here on Apple Music Hits. And let's continue with the Saga Boys. Now you release your fourth album, which is called Toto 4, and it explodes. How many Grammys did you win for that one? Was it 4?
Well, 9 in total with all the tech awards.
And Dave had the line of the year, really, when we got up and thanked Robert Hilburn for standing back of him all these years. I'll never forget it.
You know,
I fell out. I
sometimes regret that because, you know, David Foster told me, do not say that whatever you do, you're going to end your career if you say that, you know what I mean? So that's why I said it. You know?
It was awesome. I'll just never forget that. I love that so much.
I could hear hair growing, you know. So
Yeah.
Oh no! He went on and on about it too. That's what made it funny.
the great thing about it is, though, I know Elton was sitting next to him, and when we got Record of the Year, Elton was the first person to stand up and give us a standing ovation. So he was my mentor and hero, and as you can tell, he dresses, you know, his clothes too.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, Africa was a song which is still getting bigger.
It's crazy.
Now that one there, to Luke's point, there's a song, and that won't be denied. It's just a great song.
Who knew? Who knew? You know, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, how do you explain the European response? I mean, you guys are huge in Europe, and Africa seems to be maybe the breakthrough thing.
I don't know.
That's amazing, right?
Keeps coming back.
It amazes us. I mean, you remember they used to have a term called a sleeper track, which was a wild card that you didn't think was going to make it. Well, this track was hibernating. It was so sleep that no one did.
Yeah, we never thought in a million years that would be the one.
You know what I mean? That was the one they said, save that for your solo album, Dave, which meant not this album. It's not going to make it, you know.
Weezer covered it, right? It's still getting bigger. Go figure, right?
Yeah, I tried to call the guy and say, "Hey, thanks, man. That's pretty cool." He just did refuse to speak to me.
Right on.
like most people now.
We got to play another song now, and this one Dave picked. Dave, this is "Refugee" by Tom Petty. I don't need to really say why, but why?
The main thing was that the answer verse, the background singing does. I think it's Stan singing or somebody. He does the answer to Tom Petty. When I heard that voice, I was sold on it.
Perfect.
You know what I mean?
All right, here it is. Tom Petty, "Refugee."
80s Radio with Huey Lewis on Apple Music Hits.
Let's talk about some of this new stuff you guys got going on. It's unbelievable. Before we talk about your live streaming, which is kind of fun. I've been hearing that. I've been talking to John about that. He's kind of excited about that.
Oh, yeah. You're not mad at me about that, right?
No, man, I love that. I love that. First of all, what is the deal with this? You have Luke's got a solo album. Joe has a solo album. But of course, Dave plays on both of them. And Luke plays on Joe's, and Joe sings on Luke's. It's just ancestral.
It is.
Yeah.
And, you know, Dave wasn't feeling that good right afterwards, and we finished them, and that finished, and now Dave, look at him, look how handsome he is. Now I can see he looks wonderful, and everybody looks pretty good. Yeah, they're coming out the same day. That's just the way it worked out, the way I planned it to, and we decided we were going to tour, and then we were tour together, and then it's like, I'm going to make this short and sweet. Dave and I paid for our percentage of our own name much later in our career, and the only way to make that money back is to use the name, and I don't see any reason why of us that are still with us and can or want to still tour shouldn't be able to do that and still be able to use our solo thing in there and make it a full history of the whole band and everything like that. I mean, you know, Dave's always looking to welcome whenever he feels like coming out to play, or we play in LA, you know. Of course, it's still his baby, man. I'm just driving. He gave me the keys to the bus to drive for a little while.
He's been the captain for a long time.
Well, you know, what's really interesting about you guys, I gotta say, is that, you know, not only you're great musicians, but you're a real damn band. And by that I mean, you know, bands are better than the sum of their parts somehow. You know, there's something about that, and that's what keeps you together, and that's the intangible. That's the intangible that people feel. That's what
It's the
they
roller
get.
coaster, man. It's like a roller
That's
coaster.
the communication they get. And great bands are better than the sum of their parts. And you guys are the same that way, you know?
I think it's because we played all this rock and roll stuff together when we were in high school. Toto, when I used to hear the guys play on people's sessions, it would be one level. But then when we get together by ourselves, it was like we had a nitrous switch in a car, in a dragster, and it gets flipped on, and there's this whole other gear.
I don't think it's Dave. I don't think it's nitrous.
Is it? Nitro.
Sorry. Nitrous is laughing gas. Dave.
No, nitro. Excuse me. You know me. Well, that's how much I know.
No, for us it was nitrous. It was nitrous
for us, exactly.
We grew up together. That's the whole thing. We've taken every punch together. We've taken every wonderful and horrible thing together, and we've been in and out of each other's lives for like 45 years. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
That's
the
it.
good, bad,
That's
the
it.
ugly, the insane, and the wonderful. So I mean, that's really what it is.
I like
And
that.
you know
And,
what that is, Huey. You know what that is.
But I mean, you know, and the other 22 hours can be so important, right? In a band. It's not even you know, it's everything.
Dave missed all the fun last tour.
Yeah, I certainly did.
I had like a bullseye and a punching bag on my back. I'm getting older now, man. I gotta relax.
Nah, you still got the fire in your belly. I know you do. All right, so tell me about the streaming thing. Tell us about what's going on.
No, okay, I'll jump into this real quick. As we both have those records out, Joseph and I on the same label on February 21st, both solo albums, we decided we want to work together. And Dave worked on the records with us, and Dave's this is still Dave's band, you know, and I'm just holding the keys to the car, you know what I mean? And we wanted to work, and we were going to work anyway, and we lost the case against us over the percentages of the names, and so we gave it away. So we are paying the VIG every night. And we're going to go out and try to make our money back and play. We put together some new cats. Just some cats didn't want to tour anymore, or semi-retired, or really retired, or aren't with us anymore, or pant loads, whatever. I just couldn't afford to keep it together, and I needed to start fresh. This whole pandemic thing went down and made everybody rethink everything. I sort of adopted Joe because he lives down the street, and my girlfriend and I feed him real healthy, and we hang out together, and you know, he lives alone, so we're like he's family, and he has been since he was 14. So we were gonna go, and I've tried to use a different name, and it's like the promoters and everyone like, look, you paid for the name, why don't you use the name? And I really thought, like, wait a minute, that'd be stupid of me not to try to use the name and make some money back for it. I don't care if I have to pay them for the rest of my life. I mean, I put my whole life into this. I've been in all 15, count them, 15 incarnations of Toto. So when you say the band is a bigger part of everything, everybody who's ever been in the band has added something wonderful. And the people that have come and gone, hey, man, we're all still friends, most of us anyway. So we decided to do this to test out the new band, play some old Toto songs to prove what the new band's got on it, play a couple little things, give everybody a little quick taster of what's to come.
Tell us the name of the new band, Steve.
Well, the Dogs of Oz, but it's tell you, Steve Lukather, Joseph Williams, Toto present the Dogs of Oz tour 21, 22. God help, please. I hope I can tour. And we're going to go out and work because I love to do this. I love to do this. Am I allowed to say that? I love to do this. And that's why. You know, it's about, you know, just leaving it on a high note instead of a sad note as it did before. And I don't want to live, you know, how many great summers do I have left? I want to be happy.
I like it. And now wait, and the new lineup, right? Joe's singing, John Kurtz is on bass.
Right. Spud from Snarky Puppy and he was in Snoop Dogg's band for 10 years, MD, and he plus plays rock and roll like a maniac. He's on drums. Dominic Xavier, who was with Prince and with Snarky and all those guys, he was in the last lineup. He's playing keyboards. Warren Ham, Mr. Fabulous, is back because he's multi-instrumentalist, great singer. We found this great kid, Steve Majora, who plays great keyboards and sings real high, but like has a little bit more of a Ray Charles swag to it. You know what I mean? It's not so clean. And he's a lovely cat. And we had guys that were young and really wanted to do it, and we could afford to do because we have to pay a vig every night, you know, of the gross.
Where does it live stream and where can we see it?
November 21st on Dice.
All right, so let's play another song here. This is another Toto pick, and no wonder because they're on it. And this is Boz Scaggs and JoJo. So that was JoJo by the great Boz Scaggs and featuring Steve Lukather and all the cats on that record, mixed by Bill Schnee, who I also worked with, and all the cats. What a great time, man. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for doing this, guys.
Thank you. We love you, man. Get well with that hearing stuff, man. I have it too. It's a drag, man.
We love you,
You're sweet. Well, I love you too, man. I keep doing it. I'm so glad that you're out there doing it. And everybody tune in on the 21st for the live stream. And we'll get on the other side of this pandemic and go to see Toto live because these guys play it better in person than on the record. And that's rare.
Yeah, the new band is kick-ass, man. It's really good.
I'll bet.
Dave is
All right, thanks,
always be our MD. All right, thank you, and thank you, Steph.
All right, thanks everybody. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for doing this, Dave.
Hey, I wouldn't miss out. I wouldn't miss this of the world, man. You know what I mean? The fact that you remember the Bob Robert Hilburn thing made me feel good. Because all of a sudden
I felt out.
Subsequently, right after that, we turned down the cover of Rolling Stone too. Right after that.
No kidding.
I started me thinking, God, did I do bad missing Robert Hilburn and turning down the cover? You know.
Nah.
Apple Music Hits, taking you back in time. 80s Radio with Huey Lewis.